we're going to do today is start using Arduinos, and we're going to do some coding in Arduino. Now an Arduino is a little microprocessor controlled device. Now this one's called an Arduino Uno. There's also littler ones. You can see this little one here. It's called an Arduino Nano. The microprocessor is this tiny little black square in the middle of the device, and what you can do is you can use the Arduino Ide. Now this is the Arduino Ide, and what you can do is you can write code in the Arduino Ide, and then that code can be loaded onto this device via this USB port, and then this little device will do whatever the code is, or whatever you tell the code to do. So what I'm going to do is I've already loaded some code onto this little Uno, and you can see I've got an LED over here. That's a light emitting diode, and I've wired that light emitting diode up to this Uno, and I've written code on here which is going to make that LED blink. So if I now take a power source, here's my little battery pack, and I plug that into my Uno. Let's pick it all up again so you can see it. Then the code is making the LED blink, and so the Uno has been connected to power, and the Arduino is controlling that little LED. Now the code to let you do that, if I switch back to the Arduino Ide, you can see that this is my integrated development environment where I can write the code for my Uno. In order to make the LED blink, you'll see that the first thing that we have to do, so the parts, actually, let me go back a step, the parts of the code which matter are this setup routine, which is everything that's after void setup between that curly bracket and that curly bracket, and then you've got the second routine, which is the loop. The setup routine runs once at the start of your program. The loop runs over and over and over again within your microprocessor. So you can see here on the setup, what I've done is I've said the pin mode of the Arduino, there's an LED built into the Arduino, is set up for output. And so that's setting up that pin, that LED on the Arduino, as an output device. Okay, sometimes you'll want them to be output devices, sometimes you might want them to be input devices. The loop is going to then write the high value to that pin, and then it's going to delay for 1000 milliseconds, which is a second, and then it's going to write the low value to that pin, and then it's going to wait for 1 second. And that's exactly what's happening on my Arduino at the moment. So it's writing the high value and turning the LED on, and then it's writing the low value and turning the LED off. And so the coding can then be built up. And what you can do is you can set different pins to have different jobs. So some of your pins might be set to be output devices, like this one is, and some of your pins might be set to be input devices. And so that way they might receive a signal from a sensor, or they might receive a signal from a button, and they'll be able to respond based on what that signal is. So what you could do is you could set up a moisture sensor, and you could put that into the earth, and you could have your Arduino waiting until the moisture in the soil drops below a certain level, and then when that does, you could open up a valve, and that's going to turn on a tap and water your plants. And when the Arduino detects that the moisture level has risen in the soil, it can close the valve and stop watering plants. And so that way you could build an automatic watering system just using an Arduino, a soil moisture sensor, and a valve which is able to open or shut. Now that's fantastic. However, when you're learning Arduino, it's going to be quite difficult to get started. So Tinkercad have made this fantastic little program that allows you to prototype all of the ideas that you have in your Arduino development without actually having to set up the actual wiring. So if you come to tinkercad.com, you'll see there's an option here to sign in. If you can sign in there, we're going to sign in using our Google accounts. So if you just choose sign in, we're going to sign in using our Google account. So select social providers, and then then select Google. Make sure you're using the right Google account. And when Tinkercad's load, you'll see that this is a drawing program. You can design 3D models in here. However, you can also design circuits. So over here on the left, once you've loaded in, we're going to choose circuits, and that will then load in a couple of, these are past circuits that I've created. We're going to create a new circuit. And when you create a new circuit, you'll see over on the right hand side of the screen a whole lot of objects load in. And you'll see that at the moment I've got basic objects. If you choose that drop down, you can change to Arduino Circuits, and you'll see that there's a whole lot of pre-made Arduino circuits. So what I'm going to get you to do is grab the blink circuit and simply drag that onto your Tinkercad interface, and you'll see that it's already wired up. So we've got the ground pin set up here, and then from our pin 13 it's going through a resistor, and then it's going through the LED. Now you need the resistor in line, because if you send too much current through the LED, eventually it will heat up. And if you leave it turned on for too long, then just like a light bulb can burn out, the LED can burn out. And so we want to be able to protect that circuit by putting a resistor in place. Over here, you'll see there's the option to toggle the code. So now we've got our circuit set up. What we're going to do is toggle the code. And you'll see that it looks very similar to Scratch. And so here we've got our drag and drop interface. However, we can also come up here to where it says blocks, and we can switch from the Blockly code editor. So you're quite welcome to start in the Blockly code editor, but you can switch from the blocks to text-based code. And if you switch to the text-based code, you'll see that it looks very similar to what we had set up in our Arduino Ide. So in the setup, we've set our pin 13 to output. Here's pin 13, it's being set to output. And inside of our loop, right here, we're writing pin 13 high, then we're delaying for 1000 milliseconds, and then we're writing to pin 13 a low value, and so that's going to turn pin 13 off and wait for 1000 seconds, and this is our loop. So if we wanted to change the way that this procedure works, we can change this code. Now let's start the simulation and see if it works. So we'll push start, and you'll see that the code will compile, and the LED is now blinking. If we stop that simulation, we can change these values around and speed up our circuit. So let's change it from a delay from 1000 and just simply make the delay 500, and so now it should double the speed of our blink, because it's now blinking every half a second. And you can see that speeding up. What I'd like you to do is have a play with this blink simulation and simply copy the turn on code right there and the turn off code and change the sequence. So we're going to make our LED blink in a particular sequence. So I want you to change it from just blinking on and off to maybe doing an SOS, so a long blink, a short blink, and a long blink, and so on. So change some of the different sequences to actually have a play with the code. Then what we're going to do is add a couple of extra LEDs to this and make a traffic light simulator, so that the red can go on for a certain amount of time, then change to an orange, and then change to a green, and we'll be able to make some traffic lights just using the Arduino simulation. After we've made the traffic lights, our aim is to then actually do exactly what I've done here and try to wire this up as a physical device. So we're going to prototype in the Tinkercad screen here, and then we're going to wire that up as a physical circuit using the Arduino.